Meanwhile, the surge in coronavirus cases around the country also has many wondering about when another stimulus package is coming. Take you live now. You can see the Senate there in session this morning. Chuck Grassley delivering his opening remarks as we await the latest on that package. There's been a lot of talk about it. Hasn't been done. When can it get done? Here to weigh in is Republican Congressman from Florida, Michael Waltz. He's also on the House Armed Services Committee member and a retired Army Green Beret. Sir, always thank you so much for your service. And thank you for coming on the program. We just dove in right there. We saw Senator Chuck Grassley speaking. There's so much talk about a new relief bill. Do you think we'll see one before the end of the year?
You know, we could have one right now as we speak if Speaker Pelosi would allow it. There's $138 billion already appropriated from the CARES Act sitting in the Treasury ready to go for small businesses through the Paycheck Protection Program that saved so many over the summer, but it was only 2 months worth of their payroll. That $138 billion is ready to go with a flip of the switch from Speaker Pelosi. And there's a number of other things that we have tried to get through to her, whether it is relieving companies from lawsuits, whether it's an additional stimulus, additional PPE, protective equipment money for schools. And she is taking an all or nothing approach. It's her $4 trillion of a progressive wish list or nothing with her. And it's beyond frustrating. I got to be honest with you. It's infuriating. And many of these businesses are never going to come back.
Yeah, and a lot of these businesses, I just had one on the show earlier from California. They're so badly hurt from this whole thing, and they need this relief money. It hasn't been seen yet, and it's hard for these folks to watch politics play out because they can't get that relief. It's a serious topic, too, with COVID. I understand you had COVID. Is that correct? What were your symptoms like, if any?
That's right. Initially, I had no symptoms, and then day 4 or 5, it really hit me pretty hard to be candid. Fever, body aches. I lost 10 pounds. Ended up getting pneumonia in my chest. I mean, people should take it very seriously, and it is tragic the deaths that we're seeing across the country. But we're also seeing record numbers in terms of suicide. We're seeing kids really suffer with these. I just don't think lockdowns are the answer when you get into unemployment, addiction, suicide. I mean, all of those things have to be taken in. There's a county in Northern Virginia just outside of D.C. that's reporting 85% increase in failing grades from kids. That's going to affect them for their future and the rest of their lives. So it's about personal responsibility. Wear your mask, stay socially distant, stay away from large gathering. And if you have a compromised family member, take that into account. But families need to be making these choices, not Washington, D.C., and in Florida, where we're basically completely open. We're putting that individual responsibility, on people and on their families to make those choices.
Let's talk about that. Florida has seen a relatively low rate of hospitalizations and deaths as of recently. No mask mandates, no lockdowns in place in the majority of Florida. There, schools are open. I want to show you this. This is an interesting comparison here. This is Michigan, the hospitalizations in Michigan for a 7-day moving average here. I think I have Michigan deaths as well, and you can see again it continues to move forward. But then I've got the national one. If we just kind of take an overall look at the hospitalizations there, it goes straight down. This is Florida rather. Yours is down. You compare this to any state, you compare this on a national level. What is Florida doing differently as we look at this graph from the COVID tracking project? What are you guys doing differently that other states are not doing? If I look here, the past 24 hours.
We're focused on the most vulnerable. Governor DeSantis has done a fantastic job. He was my predecessor in my congressional seat. And he's focused on nursing homes, focused on the elderly, getting hospitals what they need. We have to remember the goal was to flatten the curve so that hospitals could handle this and not get overwhelmed, not lock down the entire country and have all of those other awful side effects that I mentioned in terms of suicide, addiction, kids falling behind in schools. And, in the school issue, which affects everyone, what makes me so mad is it affects blue collar families the most. You can be a lawyer, an accountant, a journalist, an epidemiologist, and stay home and work from home with your kids. But if you're a truck driver, a construction worker, a waitress, you can't. It's impossible. And so the governors and us as leaders have taken all of those things into account. But we're focused on what we've learned about the virus and who is hit the hardest. And in schools, for example, you can either go to school in person, you can do a hybrid, or you can do a virtual, perhaps if you have a grandparent or someone who's immunocompromised. Again, it's about families making those choices, responsible individuals and businesses making those choices. They don't want to get sick. They don't want their customers to get sick. They know how to be safe. They don't need politicians telling them how to do it. And that's a different approach we're taking. It's working.
Let me get your thoughts on the president's continued fight for this election. This has been something we haven't seen the likes of which, as far as how masked it's not just one state. There's a lot of challenges, but particularly in Georgia, where we're a month away from a Senate runoff. Not only is this creating a rift in the GOP, I'm sure you've read, but this push could dissuade Republican voters here for seeing some Republicans not supporting President Trump. So some of those supporters, they don't want to come out and vote in Georgia. What does the president need to do? Do you still support his continued efforts?
Well, we need every single Georgia Republican, independents, conservative Democrats to come out and vote. I have a firsthand view of the bills that the progressives are passing out of the House, but you never hear about them because they die in the Republican Senate. That won't be the case if they flip the Senate. They'll get rid of the filibuster. They'll stack the Supreme Court. They'll go after the Electoral College, D.C. statehood, so they get 2 more senators, so we can't ever get back into power. They have to get out and vote. Meanwhile, the RNC, led by Ronna McDaniel, the Republican Party, the president's team are in Georgia in force to make sure what happened on November 3rd doesn't happen on January 5th. But Republicans, conservatives, you can't be dissuaded in Georgia. You got to get out there and vote. Meanwhile, the president needs to take his case to the court, as he's doing, and continue to show the fraud that happened. We've been calling it all year long with mass mail-in voting, how that exposes the country to fraud. And anybody who cares about our democracy should want those cases to be heard. Biden supporters should want those cases to be heard because Americans need to be confident in our electoral system. And I fully support the president in making his case.
Well, the states have given the electoral votes to Biden. That's no secret. But Newsmax has still not called this election yet because of all the litigation that's happening. It is not about what you know. It's what you can prove in court. But despite that, do you truly believe that President Trump won this election?
I believe that if you count every legal vote and toss out every illegal vote, I do. Again, it's what can we prove? And here's what the Democrats are doing. They're basically taking California ballot harvesting, where you can go weeks after the election in unlimited numbers with activists, and they know how many they lost by and how many to go get and who to go get them from. They're trying to take that nationwide, and they're doing it slowly and iteratively through state legislatures with a lot of these laws that were changed right before the election under the cover of COVID. And so in many ways, they're taking these horrible practices and making them legal. And that's what's making this fight so difficult. The other piece is the Supreme Court needs to hear the case in Pennsylvania. There's some real meaty, difficult constitutional issues. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court completely overstepped its bounds. And I think that alone will put Pennsylvania back in the president's column.
We're going to be talking to Jordan Sekulow, part of the legal team, about that very topic coming up in just about 45 minutes. And that's great to ask.
Right.
Which one could make it to the Supreme Court? Congressman, it's good to see you. I'm glad you're okay with your battle with COVID. You got through it all. Congressman Michael Waltz joining us live. Thank you for your time.
All right. God bless.